Here we are again.
I know, we haven't been in here for a while.
We haven't been in here for a long time.
We haven't. It's changed a little bit. I have bought things.
Yes.
So, Daza, RS3. Let's smash through the intro. And then we start unboxing bits and start measuring up this bottom end. Go! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Back to the engine room of dreams.
It is the engine room of dreams. I've been in here for ages. Forgot what it looks like.
Yes.
So, the block for the Daza's turned up. I've got pistons, I've got rods. So, what I thought we would do is unbag it, because you don't get a nice fancy box like you do when you buy a Lambo engine. We'll unbag it. I'll show you what you need to buy as well, because loads of people miss this out when you buy them. We got a set of pistons, a set of rods, rings, so we'll unbox all that. We'll get the block up on the bench. We'll measure the bores. So we'll set our tool up, we'll measure the bores, we'll measure the pistons, and then we'll put rings in, measure the rings, and hopefully measure the bottom end and got ring gaps sorted, hopefully. We'll see how we do. But this is a brand shiny new.
This is an unbagging video.
Yeah, an unbagging video. Why, that doesn't sound rude at all, does it?
Sounds very wrong.
You want to see my bag? So, yes, a Dazzler engine. Right, you can order 2 different blocks and you have to be careful. So, shows you how prepared I am. These are oil gallery plugs. And they're basically massive rivets, right? So you put them in the hole and then squeeze them up and they snap off, exactly like a pop rivet. So you can order 2 blocks, right? And I always order the one that comes with them in place.
Yep.
Yeah. So we always make sure that you get the thread inserts in, and then also, wait. Can you see the thread inserts in here as well?
Yep.
So sometimes you can order them. There's a different part number. It's like £100 cheaper or £200 cheaper, and it doesn't have any of those in. So you've got to buy all those. You've got to buy all the plugs. And I keep the plugs in case I service any of them. We knock them out because that is the main gallery all the way through. So that's the main oil gallery all the way through.
Yeah.
And then there's one on the front here, so you just have to be careful what you get. So the only thing we've got to add into this are the head dowels. So, if I show you what's what. So we get
They're very well wrapped.
yeah, very well wrapped. Head dowel, and you literally just knock it in, but we won't do that now, so that's fine. And there is 2. So we've got head dowels. We have got, these are the green threaded inserts you can see. Those ones?
Yep.
So look, they are exactly a thread insert, and the thread is already there, but you just put these steel inserts in. So the ones you can see there, that's gearbox bell housing, and then the ones you can see on the back, Haldex mounting bolts.
Okay.
But my little strip down tool, my stand that it's on, the red stand, obviously you go to put it in and the thread inserts aren't in, the bolts don't go in. So we've got 2 different sizes of thread inserts. Then we've got head studs or head dowels, and then we've got our little water and oil gallery rivet pins that we replace if we were to service a stock block. So,
you are ready to rock and roll.
we are ready to rock and roll on that block. So I will lift that up on the bench in a momento so we can measure it. But what I want to do is, so these are our rods and pistons that we had made. So these are what are in the big Daza builds we do for like Eco Tune and that.
Yeah.
So lovely, lovely. Scoted. A scoted piston, a coated skirt. So 5 of those. These are 23mm pins. We've got a pin as well. Tool steel, so heavy duty pin. Right, and then, sir, we have our rods as well. So again, trapezoidal. So I made them so that you could run, I don't know why you'd want to, but if you had to, you could run a stock rod on an uprated piston, or you can run a stock piston on an uprated rod. So that's fine. So we got those. We have some new boltings. So uprated bolts. What I'll do is I'll get everything out, put over to the side so we can lay everything out nicely. Spec sheets, because we'll need all that, because we'll go through, we'll fire the computer up in a minute because we'll need engine logbook.
Yeah.
So obviously everything we unpack needs to be cleaned. Even the block needs to be cleaned. So it's fresh out of the bag. So I wouldn't assume any of this is clean. We will clean everything.
And that's just to take out any imperfections or things.
Yeah, if you think, like, for example, that block's been in a bag, but I don't know where that's been before. I don't know. The bag might have had a tear in it. It's been in transit. You know, like even this stuff. It's covered in like oil, assembly oil, to stop everything corroding. Yeah. But that will capture dirt and debris. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And like take a wrist pin out. Everything's slimy from oil. That one is not a bad example, but if I get this one, can you see all that crap on the end?
Yeah.
So you think everything that you put inside an engine degrades your lubrication package? So you're doing all this to make a perfect engine. Wow. You see them black spots in that bag? Does that come through?
Just about, yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can't. Which is then why, yes, I strip out in a workshop, but everything would get cleaned before it came in here. So I'm not too worried about what I'm unboxing contaminating anything. But if you think I bring a dirty engine block in here and start undoing it, or start stripping it, you think how filthy engine blocks get, then yeah. So anything that comes in here is clean. So
apparently cleanliness is next to godliness.
Is it?
Yeah.
I will make a comment about my wife, but how can she be a goddess and so dirty? I get battered for that one and all now, you watch. Said with love. She's not here today. She's here yesterday.
So let's make comments about the Israel trip videos.
We did alright.
I think my favourite was Rick, you've not mentioned you're going to Israel.
Yeah, that was on the run up before. I know, I did think that was quite good. There was a comment on one, because obviously while I was out I'd had my hair cut before I went and I didn't take my hat. And my hair gets referred to as a German dictator who committed genocide. And someone actually wrote on the video, how did your... Well, you've got to say it. How did your Hitler haircut go down in Israel? And I'm like, that is just brutal. So...
You got another comment, eh?
It's just like, there was just no taste. Do you know what I mean? Jesus Christ.
No filter. Hey, don't blaspheme.
No, so... Like, I think last week, like, I think Jord even got a little bit nervous because what did I say? I'm back from Jesus land.
Yes. You just done it again.
I think even Jordan got a little bit nervous. He's like, you can't say that.
And Jordan has no filter whatsoever.
I know, coming from the man who says everything. Like, he shouldn't. Right.
Anyway.
So, these are second rings. Alright? So, the thing to note is, one, putting them in the right way. Alright? So, you've got a number on them.
Yeah.
So, you've got to make sure you get top right. And the reason you've got to make sure, because I'm double checking now, I had one upside down. Right. Is that a permanent marker? Dreyer is. So, that's a cross section of a ring, right? And if we do it like that, so that's what a ring looks like. So ours, say N150 on the top, right? Some of them don't say anything, okay?
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful, and you've got to check, because you can get something called a Napier cut ring, which is that. So what that does is what the oil control ring can't scrape off, the Napier cut then, that's oil film, so it helps cut it off the wall. So you've just got to be careful you get the ring in the right way.
Yeah.
All right. So normally they're marked to indicate which way is upright. So on ours they do. They show they have a mark on the top, right? So again, same here. These have a mark. So that is a square cut ring. It's not a Napier cut. Same with the top ring. All right. So you've got to be careful. Things like that's the top, but the inside is beveled. Right? I've done it, mate. I don't know whether you can see it.
Oops. Yeah, it's going to be hard to pick.
All right. So on that top ring. Yeah, I've drawn it back to the front. So this is second, this is top, right? That one is the opposite. So it's actually, so again, the orientation of the ring going in the engine is very important, right? So we just sort these out. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, then there's a couple of different versions of oil control rings, or especially spiral rings, right? So there's the type we've got where it doesn't really matter which way you put them in. You can put them in that way or that way, right? And it's the springing's done through that way. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. Whereas like a CP ring is different. Yeah. So now a CP ring has a mating face. Now I always point those two edges downwards. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like that. So that's the orientation I would put it in. So two completely different spring sections of the oil control ring. So you just, again, that way doesn't matter. That way does matter. You could argue it doesn't, but I think it does. So I would do it that way. Then with the top and bottom, so they sit kind of like, can you get a good get a good view on that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can see it doesn't sit like that. It doesn't shroud it. It actually sits, there's a lip, and it sits like that.
1 second, let's just move that focus point down.
Probably doesn't help on a shiny background either, does it?
No, it's not too bad.
Yeah, so they don't sit flush, they sit on a lip.
Yeah.
So the spring ring goes in the piston first, and then once it's in, that width, yeah, is the width of the ring groove. So it can't ride over it. It has to sit like that, and that's what it's there for. So I would normally do that join on minor thrust, yeah, and then I would do that one at 90, and I'd do the one underneath, the opposite 180 out.
Sure.
Right? So that's how I do it. So let's put them back so we can get muddled up. Like so. So we need 5 of those. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we need 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. We've got all our rings sorted. So we're all sorted. So. Let me lift the block up. So it's here, and then we can. Thanks for the help, mate. Right, I might flip that over because that's a bit hard to. Right. Let's do it.
So what would you pay for one of these lovely
I
blocks?
think that was about 3.5 plus the VAT.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not too bad. So already got chamfered top, right? So we've got a tool to put that in. Once, if we were to liner it, you don't want a square edge, you want a chamfered top.
Yeah.
Right, so we are... Right, so when we assemble them, we use a special tool to push, it compresses the rings as you push it in.
Yeah.
Right, so my spec sheet for my pistons is this. So that's what it says they should be. So we're going to start at the beginning and we're going to give everything a reference, right? So just going to label everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the second you start doing this, everything stays the same. Nothing changes, all right? So we don't start juggling stuff around. So now we label our pistons. For today's exercise, we'll just concentrate on number 1. So I need to set up my gauge to measure my pistons for 82.5 mil. So I've got control ring, right? And I'm going to come into, should be 76.2. Right, so when I push this in the hole, I lock that a minute. We need to get the gauge to 0. Right. There we go. Right. So that gap there on 0 is 76.2, right? So we know our pistons are 82.5 mil. Well, they should be. So if we go out to 82.5, I'm going to put number 1 in. Right. Like so. Okay. I'm perpendicular. Right, see I'm miles off 0.
Yep.
So now I'm going to wind my gauge in until I get 0. Right. And make sure. So I'm at the widest part there. And it's there, right? So always go back on. So number 1 is 82.403. Yeah. So what we do now is, because I haven't set my cables out, right, plug it in my laptop. Like so. Keyboard out. On engine logbook. Right, so it is we're building it for VGS, so we put our customer details in. We'll skip past that, I can go in afterwards. Right, engine serial number. So it's American. They don't have 5 cylinders, so we do it this way, right? So I've got it in as a 6-cylinder overhead cam, okay?
Yeah.
So I've measured that out. If you watch there now,
yeah,
and I press my yellow orange button.
Ooh, look at that.
Right. So I'm going to take this piston out.
Yeah.
Over here, Dad. So that's number 1. Right.
Excuse me.
And put number 2 in.
Hang on, let me focus on that. Right. There we go.
Right. Number 3. Yep. Number 3.
Hang on, let me get on that. There we go.
Number 4. In.
There we go.
Alright. So, then we're just going to add some comments. So, mainly what I'm going to put there is my information off my build sheet. So, comment 1, we're going to write manufacturer name. So, it's Capricorn piston. I'm going to put the work order and a drawing number underneath, but I'm not going to show you that because they're my individual numbers. So do that. If I go work order, redact that out, and then drawing that, and then I can go keep readings like that, and it's done. All right, and that's saved in, so I'll save it as well. So that's saved in my logbook now. So
It was a bit closer up, sorry, bud.
So I've set up my micrometer. So I have got a tool come in to hold this fixture in here, but it hasn't arrived yet. So we've done it the old school way. So I've set up my 82.5mm on my mic, and I've set this to 82.5mm in here. I've got my cable connected. Then I'm in cylinder 1, right? I'm in top depth and I'm in thrust side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to cylinder 1, I'm going to go to my top depth, I'm going to go 90 degrees to the crank, so thrust face, and then I'm going to press the data button, and I hope it works. Alright, so let me loosen that off and we can turn it that way so I can see. Alright, so
I'm going to come under the cable.
So there's my dwell, right? There it was. I've got a measurement. I have! The system works, Dav!
It works!
Right.
Hurrah!
So what am I now? I'm non-thrust. So if I go that way, right, at the top, squeaky squeaky. There it is. Get number?
Not yet. Not on non-thrust.
Yeah, I'm going to put it against the stop.
Yeah.
Because that stop pushes me down, but it also squares my ring up. Yeah? Alright. I'm going to lock it in place. So, it's basically a motor with a spinning disc one side and a polishing wheel the other. Alright, so what we're going to do is sit a ring on. Yeah, I'm going to put it against the stop.
Yep.
Because that stop pushes me down, but it also squares my ring up. Yeah? Alright. I'm going to lock it in place. Right. Now, in theory, 0 should be, there's a bit of slop in the drive, so you always come back to go on. But if we go there, I should just drag on a ring. You hear that?
Yeah, yeah. Just catching.
Just catching, right? So, just double check it's tight. So, like, it's moved the gauge. So, what we're going to do is 10 increments is 0.1 of a mil. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to square this ring up, and then I'm going to remeasure it, and we're going to see how much material we took off. So I haven't even wound that on yet. So about 95% of the way there. So I'll just give it a little. And that's just to take the burrs up.
Yeah.
Right, so when I look at that now, I can see the whole face is shaved. And then when I butt the ring up, can you see how even we're square on?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Right, let's put back in. I'm going to see what we measure up at. Right, 0.2 goes all the way to the bottom. So I reckon, I don't think a 0.25 will go in. Just about. Bit of a snug. So 10, 15. I reckon we're about 0.23. Right. So if I pull some more out, because I know where I want to be.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat. Always better to do a little bit at a time, and it takes you more goes than have a ring gap that is way too big because you've got too keen.
You can't stick it back up.
It can be the most tedious part of the bloody job, especially when it's
We do it.
yeah. So like a 6 just went in real nice,
Yeah.
and a 7's just bound up. So I need to take a tickle off that, literally a tickle. Oh, bang on, mate. Just snug. Right. I'm bang on where I want to be because that one is tight going in and the other one was loose. So that's number 1 ring set. So I don't know whether you can see. You see sort of like the difference in gap where it was before. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we want. So all I'm going to do is just going to put it back in the ring grinder and just make sure deburr the edges, polish the edges. Cool. Literally just on one side, squared it off. And got a ring gap which should be. And that last time then, I just dressed the edge. There you go, mate.
Good to go.
So yeah, bang on. Right, the trick to remember is the top ring is always very hard. So when you go from doing a top ring and you go to doing a second ring, you can't be as aggressive with the second ring because it removes material a lot quicker. So it's a lot softer. So normally a top ring is like a chrome plated top ring or nickel plated top ring, and a second ring is normally like a cast iron ring. So this will bend, that'll break, that'll snap, right? So you got to be careful. You got to be careful what top ring you use with what bores. Certain materials don't work with stock bores with Alusil, and certain materials don't like being in ductile iron like this. So you've got to be careful with your ring. So where are we here with this? Yeah, we're a lot tighter than we're a lot looser than what we were when we put that one in, but we're still a little way off. So I reckon I'm easily 0.15 off. So let's just, I wonder whether you can see that. Can you see the edge of that ring there, mate? Can you see where it's black?
Yep.
Right, so watch. Right, if I show you now. Right, so I took quite a bit of material off there. Only, can you see where it's half and half? Did that come through?
Just put the light on it again.
Do you want me to put my phone light on it?
Oh, just there, it's perfect.
Yeah, so you can see the outside edge is shiny,
Yeah.
and the inside edge is dull.
Again, yeah.
Right, so that's where now my machine is trying to square the ring up. Yeah, so all I've done is square that off, and I've already changed my ring gap by 0.05. And I haven't even taken material off all of it yet. Little tickle more. A bit too tight. But I mean, it's... And then you can see then, especially where I've dressed it. You see the shiny line down it as well.
Yeah.
So I always try to get that as really neat as I can. Always feel quite good about getting that nice. So that's where I've chamfered the edge off, where I've dressed the ring after I've cut it. So that, just finish that one a little bit more, get it done. Bang on the money. Oosh, lovely job. Right, so on cylinder 1, rings 1 and 2 done.
Just like that.
Just like that, mate. sorted. And that, I have another 10 rings to do, 8 rings to do. So yeah, that's obviously not everybody's got that kind of tool.
Yeah.
But sometimes what you'd use is like a diamond file. It looks a little bit like this. The hard bit there is when you're holding a ring and you're filing, you've got to keep, drop me bloody feeler gauge, you've got to keep doing that and checking that you're not angling the ring, angling your file. So that's the key. That's the good thing about, that's the good thing about that tool. Tool keeps it square. So that is ball measured, pistons measured, ring gaps. That's how we would do ring gaps. So now what we would do is obviously finish the ring gaps, assemble the rods and pistons, measure the rods, and then we'll measure the crank, and then we sort of do the bearings. Now, right, so to do a rod, I've reset my gauge with my setting ring. So they're slightly over 50 mil. Like 50.030, and I've got a 50 mil setting ring. So I've set my tool in my setting ring. So if I if I put my tool in my setting ring, and then if you watch the bar sweep across the top, so that's I can go data hold. But that's basically where my lowest value is. So 49.996. What we do is, if I take a rod, and we'll just do it over here. I won't do it on that one because the rod bots are undone. So we'll do that. So we'll take a rod, right? And we go. So you're trying to find the dwell like 60.50602. Here we go, that's the lowest. So then that's stored on my, come from in here, look. Yeah, so then what we would do is we'd get the crank in. I'd use a micrometer with a cable in the side, and I'd measure the crank, and then it would tell me what the difference is. Then I'd measure my bearings on a so I've got a micrometer that measures bearings, which has a little ball bearing on it. So if you notice, that one's got a square end, then this one has got a little cap on it, and that's a 5mm bearing, a 5mm ball, so it's calibrated. So when I zero the gauge, I know that's a ground bearing to 5 mil, so my gauge will be up by 5 mil. So I can calibrate my gauge, put that in, and it will say 5 mil, and then I can put a bearing in. So if I, but again, all my micrometers take the cables in the side.
Yeah.
So I can then import everything in. Now the reason we have a round ball bearing is because the back side is fine on the flat of the anvil, but the rounded side, if I put something flat on there, I'm not getting a fair contact. What I'm actually getting is the edges. So what we do there is, look, is we just 2.513. All right. And then if we kind of go to the edge, this shows you how much bearings sort of taper out. See that? 2.496. So a bearing is thinner here and here than it is thick through the belly.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All measured up, mate.
Fun and games.
So that's what have we done? Measured rod journals. We've measured the piston. We've measured cylinder bore. We've measured the piston skirt. We've started to gap the rings. So there's no point me showing you that 5 times over and assembling it all up. So next time I see you, I will have 5 rods, 5 pistons sat in that. We'll then measure the crank. Probably a good one for next week, isn't it? Measure the crank. I'll have some bearings. We'll measure the bearings. And I'll have some rod bearings. Unfortunately, Audi only sell one type of rod bearing. But the crank, we've got varying sizes. So as long as our rod bearings are where we want them to be, we're normally all right. They're pretty good, to be fair. They're pretty good. Stock bearings are amazing. So I will save this. Do you want to replace? Yes. So that is done. And I'll put my gauge away. And I think, mate,
all that's left to do
is tell you to like and subscribe. What did we have last week? We went on that little, on the analytics, and it's like 60% of people who watch our stuff don't subscribe.
Yeah, I think it was 57 or something.
So, like, we get, what we getting now? We get, hang on, how many views do we get? What are we getting a month now? We're doing all right, to be fair. It's doing well. Analytics. So we do 137,000 views in the last 28 days. So we've gone up 790 subscribers. But yeah, when you look at like in analytics, how many people watch but don't subscribe?
Yeah.
So get on it, smash the buttons. Yeah, that's all right, isn't it? That's a bit of engine stuff.
Bit of tech.
Bit of tech.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So yeah, hopefully you've all had a good week. And if I don't see it for a week, I see it for a window. Oh, I missed that program. See you later.